heard EI premiums mentioned, and so I want you to guess what EI premiums were in 2015. $1.88. And guess who was the minister in charge? The current Conservative leader. Now guess what EI premiums will be next year? $1.63. That is 25 cents lower. So the leader of the official opposition needs to tell Canadians, was he misguided then, or is he misguided now?
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Neither, Mr. Speaker. Guess what Canadians paid in 2015 in EI if they earned $60,000 in 2015? $930. Guess what they pay now? $948. That is an increase. Furthermore, if you look at total payroll taxes, they've gone from $3,400 to $4,100 under this government. That's a $700 increase.
Ding dong, the witch is gone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news. We were just about to drop a video about Chrystia Freeland being appointed as an economic advisor to Vladimir Zelensky in the Ukraine, and we were questioning how she could do that while remaining a member of parliament. Well, the short answer is, evidently she can't. Chrystia Freeland has resigned. Let's take a look. So in case you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, here is the statement that Vladimir Zelensky put out just this morning at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, I appointed Chrystia Freeland as an advisor on economic development. Chrystia is highly skilled in these matters and has extensive experience in attracting investment and implementing economic transformations. Right now, Ukraine needs to strengthen its internal resilience, both for the sake of Ukraine's recovery if diplomacy delivers results as swiftly as possible, and to reinforce our defense if, because of delays by our partners, it takes longer to bring this war to an end. I am grateful to everyone who is ready to support our state and our engagement with partners. Glory to Ukraine. So it's pretty laughable that Chrystia Freeland is being hailed as some economic genius by Vladimir Zelensky. It's something, isn't it? The lady that actually drove our economy into oblivion. The Liberal government that increased our spending by tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. The Liberal government and finance minister that helped to double the national debt of Canada. Just think about that. From 1867 until 2015, Canada had around $600 billion of national debt. And that's from all prime ministers combined. And with the span of less than 10 years, they have increased that from 600 billion and change to over 1.3 trillion dollars. Over $400 billion leaving Canada to go to the United States and elsewhere. But Vladimir Zelensky has this impression that Chrystia Freeland is great at attracting investment. All the power to you. So we, in our previous video, were asking questions like, how can this happen? You have this issue. You're abandoning your constituents. Here's just a little bit of that discussion that we had.
So it is possible and permissible for MPs to have a second job. For example, if you own a restaurant and then became a member of parliament, depending on what the ethics commissioner says, you can still continue to operate that restaurant, or you can still be the owner while passing off the duties and responsibilities to somebody else. But to have a MP who is working for a foreign government, that's unheard of.
The problem here is, although there's no legal rule, and again, this gets to the sticky legal rules, of an MP in this position, this puts her in such a conflict of interest. How do you know what master she's serving?
Well, and that's just it. I mean, take, for example, when we have ambassadors go over to different countries. Those ambassadors work for Canada, and they're going to that other country to try to push Canada's interests in that other country. In Freeland's case, she's working for Canada and the Ukraine. How does that work?
And here's the other thing I want to throw out there. To the constituents of University of Rosedale, your member of parliament is abandoning you in the most literal sense of the word. Not only was she abandoning you to literally leave the country and go to work in England, now she's abandoning you to go and work for another government entirely. And she wasn't even elected even a year ago. So how do you trust a Liberal candidate that they're actually going to stay in that seat when you elect them there? This is the problem. And this is the question that Canadians all across Canada are asking. Which brings us back to this, posted about half an hour ago. Ukraine is at the forefront of today's global fight for democracy, and I welcome this chance to contribute on an unpaid basis, she had to mention that, as an economic advisor to President Zelensky. In accepting this voluntary position, I will be stepping aside from my role as the Prime Minister's Special Representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. In the coming weeks, I will also leave my seat in Parliament. I want to thank my constituents for their years of confidence in me. I am so grateful to have been your representative. So, ding dong, the witch is gone, but this is just crazy. She is abandoning her seat less than a year after being elected. What is with these people? Where is your principles? Where's your integrity? Oh, right, you don't have any. Silly me. But this is the issue that Canadians are wrestling with our own government, with our own democracy. Canadians are starting to ask, if this is so malleable, Canadians are asking why, I don't know how to vote for somebody when it looks like people are dropping from their seats like flies or changing their colors without actually consulting with the constituents via an election. That's the only consulting that should actually be allowed. So I guess the good thing is Chrystia Freeland's out. The conflict of interest that she was going to have is no longer there. And now she's going to be saying sayonara and leaving Canada. If Canada was so great, why aren't you staying here? If Canada has such a path to the future, why aren't you staying here? If Mark Carney was so great, why are you leaving his government? I hope the mainstream media asks these questions. I really do. Do we think they will? Probably not. Anyway, folks, that's your breaking news for this afternoon. Happy Monday.